Good morning and good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to the LexisNexis complimentary webinar titled Advanced Marketing Tactics for Law Firms. Before introducing our speaker, we have a few announcements. For our phone participants only, if a problem arises, please dial *0 for the operator. If you are active on Twitter, we will be live tweeting with the hashtag LNLegalMarketing. Please take note of the survey that will be available to you at the conclusion of this webinar. We appreciate your comments and would like you to complete the survey as it helps us provide outstanding content that best meets your needs. Our speaker welcomes your questions and will be taking the last 30 minutes of this program to answer questions. Please submit them by the Q&A section of the webinar platform. We will try to cover as many audience questions as possible. Today's program will give you excellent ideas to drive your business and generate leads, although it's not CLE eligible. And now I would like to introduce our speaker. Jabez Lebret is a co-author of the best-selling legal technology book titled Online Law Practice Strategies. He is an international technology expert who writes a regular business and technology column for Forbes, among other publications. He is also co-founder of a legal marketing agency, GNGF, and he is a self-proclaimed coffee and craft beer enthusiast. Jabez, the floor is yours.
Thank you very, very much for that fantastic introduction, and welcome everybody to the Advanced Marketing Tactics for Law Firms. So just to kind of give you a quick overview of how this webinar is going to flow today, we're basically going to be covering from start to finish your entire web presence as a whole and dive into some marketing tactics that you can be using to both kind of expand your presence, build a moat around yourself online, protect your online presence. We're going to discuss where people are coming from online, how are they finding your practice, what methods you need to be using to make sure that you are both protecting your time while also doing the steps necessary to get things out there and into the space where people can go find it, which is fantastic. So I'm really excited about today. We are going to have a good amount of time for Q&A at the end. So you will notice we are going to cover a lot of information in about 60, 65 minutes or so. We're going to be covering through a slide deck that I have prepared here, and then we're going to be jumping into Q&A afterwards. So that doesn't mean you can't ask questions throughout the presentation. By all means, feel free. We'll try to address as many of those as we can at the end. And then if you have questions that you want to hold until the end, that's fine as well. We are going to be sending this out. So the Lexis team is going to be sending this out after the presentation is over, so you'll be able to get a copy of this. We are going to post the webinar online, so that way you'll have access to it if there's something that I cover that you're like, hey, what was that one thing that Jabez was talking about? You'll be able to go back and watch a replay. So let's jump right in. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Jabez Lebret. I'm originally from Alaska. No, I cannot see Russia from my house. I am from this tiny, tiny, tiny little fishing village in the middle of nowhere, kind of in the central, south central part of the state, up near Homer, Alaska. Some people have heard of Homer. To give you an idea of the town I'm from, just how small it is, the bank is inside the bar. So when you get a check and you have to go in to cash your check, you literally walk into the bar and write your check over to the bar. So very, very, very small town. My mini claim to fame is I was the last baby born in the town that I am from, and that's not something too many people can say, but the place is that small. So kind of interesting, as was mentioned. I do a lot of writing. I certainly don't bring this up to brag. I just bring this up to point out that what we're talking about today and the techniques that we're talking about here today are as current as possible. As a journalist, part of my job is to stay up on the trends inside and outside of the legal industry. My agency only works with law firms, and so I am steeped in that environment all the time. But I also do a lot of interviewing and discussions and talks and conferences, just in technology and marketing in general. So the information we're getting today is as forward thinking as possible and as current as possible. I literally was making edits to the slide deck yesterday. So that is how current this information is, which is fantastic. So what we have here today is going to be the starting point that you want to be kicking off and some checkpoints you want to be going back and looking at some of the techniques that you're currently using. What's really awesome is everyone gets a copy of our book, Online Law Practice Strategies. There is a link that you need to go to fill out so that we can send you the book. And the link, I don't see it on here. It was on here. I'll make sure that everybody gets that link later. Let me just give it to you right now, though. So write this down. If you've got your internet browser up, feel free to type it in now. Or if you've got a pen and paper, it's just www.gnGF, that's GNGF, just like our logo in the lower right-hand corner, gnGF.com/Lexis, L-E-X-I-S. So it's just gnGF.com/Lexis, and everybody gets a complimentary copy of our book, Online Law Practice Strategies. It's about 300 pages long, walks you through step-by-step current guide. You are getting the brand new released book that actually hasn't even hit the shelves yet. This book has been #1 bestseller for 4 years in a row on legal marketing and online tactics, and you will be getting a copy of this book fresh off the press. It is just came back from our publisher yesterday. We did our final approval on the final draft, which is fantastic. So that means this is also super up to date right now. We did a lot of changes over the last year. Some of you on this call may already have last year's edition of the book. You're going to want to make sure you throw that one away and go after this year's edition because it does have quite a few changes. So again, that URL is gnGF.com/Lexis. And you'll find a little form there. We just need you to fill that out to let us know where to send the information. So let's jump into the world of the interwebs. Where are people going? What are people doing? What do you need to be worrying about? This presentation is broken into several sections of the interwebs and online presence. They're going to help walk you through kind of the different facets of where you need to be. Some important things to consider is how people are using the internet today and how that's different than when people were using the internet. Even 5-10 years ago, we've seen quite an amazing shift in just the way that people are interacting online. We conducted a study here of just kind of trying to find out what people are doing online, where are they going when they're looking for their information. Right here what we're seeing is 60% of people, so we conducted, this is a survey that GNGF conducted, and in this survey we were asking, if you're faced with a legal issue or problem, where would you do your research? And 60% of people said that they would go online. It shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. You're probably hearing from some of your clients from time to time. They're coming to you and saying, hey, I was doing a little bit of reading online. This is what I think my legal issue is. This is what I think the problem is that I'm facing. Doctors have certainly been getting this for a while from WebMD. It's a great example of where people are going into their doctor's office now and saying, hey, I think I know what's going on, before they've even presented their symptoms or issue to their doctor. So we live in a world now where we have access to information online, and understanding how that information can be used in a professional setting is where the legal profession comes into play. We were also kind of curious when people go online. And so when our users, and I know the slide can be a little hard to read because the text is a little bit small, but let me walk you through what we're seeing here. The question was pretty easy. When are you likely to visit a law firm's website? You'll notice that the numbers add up to more than 100. That is because users were allowed to select all that apply. And so since people are allowed to select all that apply, we're wanting to say, when do you go to a law firm's website? What's interesting on the far right column is only 9.1% of respondents to this huge survey that we conducted said they never go online. This was a random survey, so these are people of all varying levels of socioeconomic status, different parts of the country. They're from all over the place, and only 9.1% said they really had no interest in going to a law firm website. The box that we've outlined there are all people that have gone to the website before they've become a client. And we point out here that referrals are going online. And I think that that's really important to note. You know, that the way that referrals work today, in today's environment, in the world that we live in now, is I might be out and about at a networking event. I might be talking to a colleague or a friend somewhere and expressing to them that I have some sort of legal problem. So I own an agency. We have about, you know, almost 30 employees. You know, we have issues that arise as part of owning and running a company. And I might be talking to somebody about a specific issue, and if I get a referral from them to go to a lawyer, I'm not going to wait until I get home for that person to email me a connection to that law firm or that lawyer. I'm going to pull my phone out of my pocket, probably Google the lawyer right then and there. I may just type the lawyer's name into my phone, go home, and hop on my laptop, and then just Google them once I get home. Either way, I'm probably going to go online first. And that's become the norm. That is no longer the exception to the rule, and that's really important when we're talking about, marketing tactics as a whole. We have to understand how are people getting to us, because that's going to dictate where and what we need to do. So it's really important to notate that this is the user behavior that we're experiencing now, that people are going online, and they're going online both for information, but they're also going online when they're getting referred to a law firm. In 2005, what you're seeing here on the left side is Jones Day's website in 2005. And basically your online presence in 2005 just equals your website. That was it. Websites for law firms in 2005 were basically brochures online. And there are places where you had the pretty standard information, practice areas, law firm bios, you know, information about your firm and where you're at, location, contact information, and so on. In 2015, what we see on the right-hand side is that your online presence is now no longer isolated to just a website anymore. Your online presence is a mix of things you've created online, things that other people have created for you online. It's mobile, it's your website, it's social, it's review sites and directory listings, and there's all these things that now exist online. And I used to apologize. You know, I do about maybe roughly about 40 CLEs a year all over the country. So, you know, part of what I do most with my time is travel to bar associations and legal events and do CLEs. And I used to apologize to the audience for all of the kind of, I don't know if I'd call it a mess, but all of the different areas that you have to be online now. And I kind of stopped apologizing. I no longer really feel bad that this is the world that we live in. It just is what it is. And it is of no opinion or thought that I feel good or bad about it. This is just the reality of things, that we live in a world where all of these online things exist now. We have a presence there whether we like it or not, and we just have to figure out how to manage that and how to use our time wisely and our resources wisely to be able to make sure that nothing's falling through the cracks. And that's really kind of where it gets important. So let's talk about some of these directory listings, and this is where we're going to start. Your directory listings are the very first place that you need to be paying attention to when it comes to your online presence. Right here I've called out 3 different directories. These are kind of the major directories. I would call at least the 3 biggest directories you need to be worried about, that you should have a presence on and put effort forward. You know, Yelp being one of them. In the upper right corner, you'll see a law firm that hasn't claimed their Yelp profile on the top, no picture, no real information about them. The one below, it's got some reviews, image of the lawyer. You see an Avvo profile on the left. If you have not heard of Avvo somehow at this point in time, we are going to talk about Avvo a little bit later, and we'll talk about optimization of Avvo. And then below that, you see Google Plus profile. So let's start with the Google Plus profile. So Google Plus, oh, just kidding. Sorry here, I don't know why I still have this slide in here. I had taken this slide out at a presentation a little bit ago. I accidentally left it in here. All this slide is showing you is that we now access the internet through different devices, but that shouldn't be new information to you anymore. You should be pretty familiar that we are accessing the internet through all sorts of different devices these days. And mobile is really important. And so even when we get into talking about directory listings, users that are going on to their mobile devices and doing searches for you by name or by location, one of the first things that's going to come up on Safari on an iPhone, especially on Android, is your Google Plus listing. And I think that people forget that mobile usage is so important. In 2015, access to the internet via mobile devices surpassed access to the internet via desktop. And desktop would cover laptops and everything else. So what that means is that more people accessed the internet via their mobile phones than had accessed the internet via their computers in the U.S. That's not even international. It's just in the U.S. And these are just some fun statistics on a research report about, you know, who's using their phone and when. There was a joke that I used to say all the time in presentations, was that there's only 3 things you can bring to bed with you at night: your spouse, your dog, and your phone. And it really is kind of true. Most of us sleep with our phone on our nightstand. And it just is, I use it for my alarm. I use it for, you know, my email. I use it for reading news. I use my phone for so many things that it really does stick with me most hours of the day. I have my phone on me and readily available in case I need to get access to information. So these are just a quick slide of some mobile presence stuff that we're going to be jumping into when we get to the website side of the fence. Just want to show you that this is something we need to be concerned about. How does stuff appear on mobile? And this also impacts your directory listings, which luckily are already mobile optimized. You know, and this is just testament, right? If you've ever walked into an event or something before the event started, looked at the audience, everybody's sitting there on their phone. So anyway, mobile, I don't know why we're still having the mobile conversation. It is still happening out in the world. I think that we should just accept that mobile is legitimately here. So here is a slide showing basically what does page 1 should look like for your name. And this is owning your branded search terms. And here's where the directory listings kind of come into play. You see LinkedIn, you see Yelp, you see Avvo. On the right-hand side, you see the Google Plus listing that we're going to be talking about. You see your website and some images. You want to make sure that you're owning page 1 on Google for your own search term, your name, especially your firm name. And you should be checking that. And if you haven't checked it in a while, you need to make sure that you're Googling yourself from a clean browser. That means no history, no cookies, you're not logged into any email or social channels. Those all impact your search results. I was literally just on the phone with a law firm last week, and they were talking to me about how they've been doing really, really well online in their rankings. And I'll talk to you a little bit later about why rankings don't really matter anymore, but they were talking about how they were doing really well online in their rankings. And when I dug a little deeper, I found out that the partners were searching for their keywords from their own computer without clearing their history, without clearing their browser, without clearing their cookies. And so because they go to their website enough, the search engines gave them their website as a really high return, because the search engine said, you go to this website all the time, you must think this is an important and relevant website, therefore I will give it to you high in the search results. So search results are completely customized to each individual user now. And that's important to note, which is one of the reasons why ranking doesn't matter anymore. So if you are going to do some research about yourself online, make sure it's coming from a clean browser. That is going to be very, very, very important. So how do you influence the search engines to show the right information about your firm at the right time? This graph shows you, there's Google Plus Local in the middle, and don't obsess about what all these arrows are and what all of these little things are. What this map is showing you is the relationships between different directory listings and who is influencing whom. So we have directory listings that are pointing and giving information to other directory listings, and directory listings that are grabbing different information from other directory listings. The point is, it's a big rat's nest. Okay, so there is no one place you can go. The ones we highlighted were just to show some of the bigger named ones that are out there, but that's not to say that these are the places that you have, that all of these are the places that will influence everyone else. It's not to say that these 4 are the places that if you get those right, everything else falls into line. What it is saying is these are the 4 where things are influencing, there's more connections. This is why it's so difficult to establish a proper online presence. You know, because it's a struggle to get it all. I mean, when I tell people to set up, you know, 120 directory listings, they pretty much, it makes you want to jump out a window almost. just at the thought of taking that all on. Don't do it in a weekend. Do it over like a year. I mean, if you just did 2 directory listings a week, you'd have 104 at the end of a year. So that becomes a lot more palatable, you know, when it comes to approaching this stuff. What we're going to talk about today, and don't try to do this all at once. It is too much to do at a single time. You know, with our clients, we do these sorts of things over an entire year because there is such a huge volume of things that need to be done that our stuff, you know, we're like, hey, look, these projects take longer than a week. So do make sure that you are spreading that out. You know, and when we're talking about Google Plus Local, you'll notice I actually talk about Google pretty much as everything. I'll talk about Google almost as synonymous with search and search engines. The reason is that Google really does own that environment. Over 80% of law firms' search traffic is coming from Google. Someone had asked a question, do I recommend an analytical program such as Google Analytics to measure traffic, or should that be outsourced? And, you know, that is a good question. The answer is absolutely. Google Analytics is free, and there is no reason to run any other analytics program because every other analytics program uses Google Analytics as their backend because Google's the one that when you tie it into your website, you're going to get the most data out of it because Google's where everything connects. And so that's really, really, really important. So this is a Google Plus local page. Most law firms have a Google Plus local page, whether you have created it or not. Google has found your business information that's public and said, here's a business that has an address. We're going to create their online profile. Think of this like the phone book online. This is the listing that comes up on Maps. This is the listing that comes up in the search results online. And what we're seeing here is this one particular one is from a law firm in San Luis Obispo. And San Luis Obispo in California is a pretty small town. It's not that large. It's down there in near Santa Barbara, kind of heading towards that southern wine country, beautiful part of the country, amazing place. This law firm had over 16,700 views of their Google Plus page in a tiny town. 16,000 views of the Google Plus page. Those are prospects, customers, and clients, and people that are going online looking for legal solutions or looking specifically for this law firm that are clicking on this Google Plus local page, and this is what they're seeing. What we're calling out here is this page has not been optimized. This is what a Google Plus local page should look like. This is what you have as a default if you've done nothing. This is what the Google Plus page should look like. It's got your logo in the upper left corner. It's got a nice background image. This is one of our clients from Huntsville, Alabama. That bridge right there over the water is an iconic park in downtown Huntsville, Alabama. If you're from Huntsville, Alabama, you know what that bridge is. This speaks to the people in that community. They will understand that this law firm is there in Huntsville and they're servicing the Huntsville community. This is free, by the way. This doesn't cost you any money to set this sort of stuff up. And when you start to optimize this, you get even more exposure. This page has 69,000 views, which is fantastic. And the problem is the other one, when you don't have any images in there, it almost kind of looks like you're out of business. It looks like you don't even exist because there's nothing there, right? It's devoid of information. Sometimes it even has wrong information, and that's even worse. It might have your fax number where your phone number should be. It might say that you're the wrong practice areas. We see that a lot where maybe it thinks you're a bankruptcy attorney when in fact you're actually an estate planning attorney. It may think that you do criminal defense when actually you're a personal injury attorney. I mean, so you do got to watch that. You want to make sure the information there is accurate. The best thing to do is to go onto your Google Plus local, find your profile just by Googling yourself, and then make sure that listing gets claimed and that you take the appropriate steps to fix the information on there. It doesn't cost you any money. It is just a matter of logging in. And our book will walk you through the entire process. So don't fret about where do I go to log into my Google Plus page so much. When you get our book, you'll see on our book exactly the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, about how to claim these listings and stuff. So I don't want you to stress out right now about the functionality of it, the tactics, the minutia of the detail of the tactics. you're going to get that information. I want to talk today a little bit more high level about why some of these things matter. So this is Avvo. Avvo just launched their first national TV campaign about a month and a half ago, maybe 2.5 months ago now. Avvo, for those of you that don't know, Avvo is a legal directory listing. It's a little bit different. Avvo's kind of core function is to connect the consumer that has a legal issue to the lawyer. And I know that you're like, well, that's what a directory listing is, but Avvo's choosing to do it in multiple ways. So they've got the directory listing. They have a large Q&A forum that people are able to access and ask questions to lawyers. They have a click-to-call function that is, I've got a legal issue and I want to talk to a lawyer for 15 minutes. It's a new product that they have out now. So they're developing all these products constantly. They're finding unique solutions for connecting people who have legal issues to lawyers in their area. And that's a good thing. You want that. If you're trying to grow your practice and continue to have a healthy new amount of clients coming in, you want to make sure that you're getting those clients from multiple sources. Avvo also has a rating system. Now, there's a lot of chatter out there, and I've been hearing for years lawyers complain about how they don't like the fact that Avvo rates lawyers on a scale of 1 to 10 based off of an algorithm. Lawyers don't like that, and that's okay that you don't like that. I really have no opinion about whether or not that is the right way to do it or the wrong way to do it. What I can tell you is that Avvo ranks very, very well in search engines. So when someone Googles your name, they are extremely likely to see your Avvo profile come up in the top 1, 2, 3, maybe 4th return on Google. That is really, really important for you to know. As a lawyer, you need to put your opinion about or like or dislike about whether or not you think Avvo is a good company or not, whether or not you agree with the fact that they give you a rating or not. You need to set that aside and realize that the client and prospect is finding your Avvo profile, and therefore you should be claiming your Avvo profile, adding a picture, and making sure that the practice area information is correct. Now, a couple of tips on how to help your rating in Avvo. Number 1, make sure you get some peer endorsements. Avvo allows for 2 types of recommendations/endorsements. It has a client review area where clients can come in and leave you a review anonymously or with their name. It also has a place for lawyers to review each other. So if you've got some colleagues or some friends, and just shoot them an email and say, hey, would you mind endorsing me on Avvo? I would appreciate your peer endorsement. Please log in and take a moment. The customer portion, so where the clients review you, that does not impact your Avvo rating at all. Where lawyers endorse you, which, by the way, doesn't have to be like a long written out paragraph. Sometimes it's just a one-click endorsement. Where lawyers do it, peer-to-peer, that does impact your Avvo rating. Because what that does is sends a signal to Avvo that says, hey, other lawyers in your profession are saying, I believe this person is a good lawyer at this. So that's why that impacts your ranking. Now, the fact that Avvo allows for anonymous reviews, there's recently a case coming in the Washington State appellate courts from Florida, a family law attorney in Florida, Thompson versus Jane Doe, where Jane Doe had gone on to Avvo, written a fairly negative review about this lawyer. The lawyer said this person was never a client and was pretty convinced the person wasn't a client. So they tried to sue Avvo to get access to the name of the person so they could file a libel lawsuit. Well, the courts in Washington had determined that the lawyer didn't bring enough information of harm forward, proof of harm forward to be able to release that individual's name. They were citing the issue that, once you release somebody's name, it's out forever. You cannot undo that. And so that makes sense. I actually kind of took a little different angle on this whole case of Thompson versus Jane Doe into saying that you actually want anonymous reviews, and we're going to talk for a second here as to why you still want anonymous reviews. And so if anybody's curious out there, I am the one moving the slides forward. So if we get stuck on a slide for a little while, it's because I'm wanting to talk about that issue. couple of things. I know that this is not for CLE credit, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring some part of the ethics questions into play. So ethical issues can arise when you claim listings. I just want to bring this up. I was just having a conversation with somebody in Missouri this week about the ethical implications of claiming AVO profiles and interacting in AVO. If you do claim a listing, you are responsible for the content of that listing. That means that your practice area should be current. The information on there should be accurate and not misleading. And in every state, online directories are an acceptable form of advertising. And in some states, they're not even considered advertising. Where you want to draw the line is watch for your commercial speech. So as long as there's no commercial speech in your description that you put in a directory listing, then you don't really need to worry about whether or not there is or is not a disclaimer, an advertising disclaimer. Commercial speech just basically being a strong call to action. You know, call us today for a free referral, stuff like that. You don't need that in a directory listing. You really don't. They're already there looking at all your contact information, and they're there to solve a problem. You know, and somebody just asked, should participate in the answering of AVO questions is a better way to get a better rating? No. AVO's Q&A will not improve your rating the same way that a peer endorsement will, but it does give you more exposure. So the AVO rating, or the AVO Q&A section where you can go in and people ask questions, the data all shows that, and we actually interestingly just are about to publish an article about this on our website. The article shows that people who have answered 15 questions or more receive 100% more page views of their AVO profile. So if you're getting 30 views a month, every month consistently on AVO, and you answer 15 questions over a year's period of time, then you'll start to be getting an average of about 60 views per month. And that's because your profile's performing stronger within the AVO network. So it has nothing to do with your rating. It does have to do with how well you perform inside the network. People who participate end up kind of rising into more situations and end up more visible on the AVO platform. The anonymous review section of the AVO. The reason that I think anonymous reviews are important, for some of you in some of your practice areas, getting reviews can be very challenging. We'll talk in a minute about why you need reviews, but if you're, say, criminal defense attorney, it's not likely somebody's going to say, hey, thanks for getting me off that cocaine charge. That's probably not going to happen, but they would potentially say that anonymously online. Even in business litigation situations, I may not be likely to go online and say, thank you for solving my business dispute and put my name and my company forward that way to something that was never public, but I would do it anonymously. So that's my opinion on why we actually should embrace anonymous reviews, is because they allow for people to say thank you and to give you a positive review for situations they wouldn't have normally gone online and done. So here are the areas you've got to watch out for on the ethics side: the business descriptions and the categories. Those are the two areas that typically we see the most ethics violations pop up online. All right. We already covered this. Comparative speech, don't mislead people. That should be pretty obvious. And if other people are creating your directory listings for you, so if you have someone on staff there in your law firm, or you hire an agency to do your directory listings for you, just make sure that that agency or your staff understand where the ethical lines are. So you got to watch the comparative speech. You can't say that you're best or that you're a specialist at something unless that type of law happens to actually allow you to refer to yourself in that way in which you would already know. You know, certainly don't mislead anyone. Watch out for the practice areas. That's an area that we sometimes see issues come up when it comes to misleading on accident. So here's why reviews do matter. It's no longer okay to just not get reviews. And this is a little bit of a marketing tactic that gets kind of swept under the rug. People, for some reason, don't focus enough on reviews, and it actually produces an immense amount of results. You'll notice a lot of this stuff is kind of block and tackle, and the reason that it's still referred to as advanced is that some of these things people aren't doing. A lot of them they're not doing, and a lot of these things are what I would call the details that make the difference between actually having a successful online presence versus just having an online presence. And so advanced is sometimes understanding which important details need to be buttoned up. And so reviews are one of those areas where we see a lot of people that don't understand why reviews are so important. There are studies that have been done where, and not by us, but other much larger studies, ComScore and Nielsen did a huge study on reviews that show that people go to reviews even after they've been referred to a business or a person. So they've been referred to a law firm, or they're referred to a doctor, or referred to a dentist, and they go online and read the reviews of that person before they contact them. And so that's pretty interesting, right? So even though the person's already been told by someone they know and trust that you're the person they should contact, doesn't mean they're not going to go online and read the reviews about you before they contact you. And so that does mean you want to stay up on your reviews. You want to make sure that your reviews are being managed. Reviews show up in all sorts of places. Most sites, if you have at least 5 reviews or more, they will display stars. And most of the time, it's between 1 to 5 stars. We're accustomed to seeing this. For Google+, your Google+ page, you have to have 5 to get stars. Don't be afraid if you have a 3-star review or a 4-star review. If you have a 1 or 2-star review, then that means that there could have been a problem that you may want to address. And so you do want to pay attention to that. But we'll talk about a second here about how to get reviews. Just note that reviews do matter to the general populace, and that's pretty much everybody. Here's where you should get reviews. So where do you want to put your reviews? The 3 places you want to focus on are Google+, Yelp, and Avvo. And here's why. Google+ is obviously connected to Google, so therefore you want to make sure that your stuff's showing up solidly on Google. Google+ reviews matter. Yelp influences other things like Bing and Siri and other places that you're online. So having Yelp reviews and a Yelp presence matters because that's going to help you in other areas where you also could be getting traffic, and mobile as well. And then Avvo, because Avvo is the only one of the 3 that allows for anonymous reviews, and Avvo shows up very well in Google also. So these are the 3 you want to focus on, and here's how we direct people to go get reviews on these 3 things. Now, number 1, you can't tell people what to write in a review. Ethically, you're not allowed to write the review for them, but what you can do is tell them what not to write. So we usually say make sure that they understand the information that you don't want them to write, and I'm going to talk a little bit here. I have 1 slide about the ethics of reviews, a couple of slides about the ethics of reviews, and we'll talk about that in a second. They have a Gmail address, if you have a client who has a Gmail address, email them a link to your Google+ page to leave your review, because that means they're already logged in and already have a Gmail account. If they don't have a Gmail account, then send some of those people to Yelp and some of those people to Avvo. That way you can spread out where you're asking people for reviews from. In most states, there is no implication to asking for a review. We will be covering in a second the implications of asking for a review, but just real quick, I want to note that you should only probably ask people who like you to give you a review. You don't have to ask everybody. So keep your reviews to people who actually like you. Is going to make your life a little bit easier. Here's a screenshot of what it looks like on Google when you have reviews, and it just pulls up a list of the reviews. And so this person has 5 stars because they asked people who like them, who were previous clients. This is a and now we're getting to some of the ethical side of the fence and legal side of the fence. This is Reputation Adroit. This service, you can buy reviews. So I've run into situations where I'm doing an audit for a law firm, and I'm looking at their online presence, and they have 500 reviews online, and these reviews are all over these different websites, and they're all 5 stars, and they're all generic. And in doing a little bit deeper digging, was able to uncover that none of the reviews were real. The law firm hadn't gone out and created fake reviews. And in fact, in this case, the law firm didn't even buy the reviews from a company like this. The law firm hired one of those companies that claimed they could get them results online for a really cheap price. So if somebody comes to you and says, I can get you on page 1 of Google for $1,000 a month, that's not possible unless they cheat. One of the ways that they cheat is by faking reviews. If you hire an agency and they fake reviews on your behalf, you are going to be responsible for those reviews. So don't do it. Make sure that you get in writing, in very good detailed writing, what your agency that you're working with is going to be doing online activity for you, so that you can go back and say, no, I didn't authorize them to do this. They did that without my authorization. It's just a good way to protect yourself. Oh, good question. Why is the AVO directory more important than Martindale-Hubbell or any other legal directories or the, quote, next directory? That's a great question. The reason is simple, that AVO is ranking pretty much better than every other directory listing out there. A recent Google update about 6 months ago gave lawyers.com a boost again. Lawyers.com had pretty much died. It recently just came back. Martindale-Hubbell's been purchased. It's just not a valuable place anymore. The consumers aren't going there. So that's why I would say it doesn't really matter. Where are people going? Where are your clients going? Your clients are going to Google. Who's doing well on Google? AVO's doing really well. And that's not just kind of a right now. AVO's going to be there and then they're going to be gone. AVO got a huge round of funding again about a year ago. AVO is not going anywhere anytime soon, nor is Yelp. So that is why those are the ones that we focus on. Just a real quick, and by the way, again, you're going to get a chance to watch this slide deck afterwards, and I'll email everyone this slide deck when the presentation's over. So for those of you that went to the book forum, if you joined a little bit late, to sign up to get our book, it's just at www.gngf.com/Lexis. That's gngf.com/Lexis. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. It's about 300 pages. It talks about these ethics as well, and it talks about setting up all these review sites and how to get some reviews. So you can't pay for reviews in any state. You're not allowed to give anything of monetary value. You can't give a notepad to somebody in exchange for review. Can't make up profiles. Don't write your own reviews online. Wouldn't make any sense anyway. You may be responsible for the content of a review. That happens in some states, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio. There are a few states that are requiring it. It's becoming a trend where if you ask somebody for a review, you are then responsible for the content of that review. I think it's a terrible opinion, but that's not really up for me to judge. The fact is, if the person goes online and says you're the best attorney and they guarantee that you'll win every time, there's obviously some ethics violations there. If that does happen, don't freak out. If you ask somebody to leave you a review and that person goes online and violates, 5 ethics issues of solicitation or comparative speech, just call them and ask them if they could edit the review and explain to them that puts you in an awkward situation with your bar association. A good way to avoid that, like I mentioned earlier, you can't tell people what to write, but that doesn't mean you can't tell them what not to write. So oftentimes when you're asking for a review, just simply say to somebody, please avoid using words like guaranteed or best. Don't talk about any details of your case. Just simply talk about what it was like to work with our law firm. That is completely ethically okay to do. And that should help protect you pretty much most of the time. You won't run into any problems if that's how you set it up. So, you can't have people leave reviews from your office. They have to be at home when they're doing it. So, that is a little bit unnerving. I get it. But you really don't have a choice. You're going to want these reviews. The risk outweighs, or the benefits certainly outweigh the risks on this one. So reviews are very, very important. And creating a culture of reviews is really what's going to help. So somebody asked, can you give a bonus to an employee who is successful in getting reviews completed by clients? Absolutely. You can financially compensate someone to help you with the review process. You just can't compensate the person leaving the review. And that's the ethics opinion. And pretty much I'm only fluent, well, not only, I'm fluent in about 36 states professional guidelines, and I would say in none of those 36 states have I ever seen anything talking about whether or not you compensating an employee at the firm for getting reviews is of any, because really if you have somebody on payroll and part of their job is getting reviews or helping the clients go online to get reviews, then you're already compensating them. So not a problem there. Great question. Great. There's some good questions coming through the session here. So let's talk a little bit about the website. We've been talking a lot about off-site stuff. Oh, before we talk about websites, let me talk real quick about negative reviews because this does come up a lot, and people are concerned with how do I respond to a negative review. So I do want to walk through that real quick. If someone leaves a bad review for you, and a good example would be, let's say somebody went on to Yelp and wrote a really bad review. This actually happened to one of our clients. They're the nicest firm. I mean, they are so nice. And this person went online and blasted them on Yelp. And the first thing to do is to determine if you can figure out if the person was actually a client. Sadly, a lot of negative reviews are opposing counsel's client that is pissed off that they lost or didn't get what they want, so they go online and blast you. And that's actually against most all of the reviews companies' guidelines. So like Yelp, for example, you really have to have been a customer, right? You have to have been a client of a law firm to be able to have left a review. Google Plus is the same way. You have to have actually bought services from that company to leave them a review. You can't just share your opinion because you want to about a company online that you haven't actually purchased anything from. Not saying that those companies are perfect, Google and Yelp. I'm just saying that that's the way it's supposed to work. So first thing is, if you can figure out it's not an actual client, then contact the company immediately. Do not respond to the negative event or review. Contact that company immediately and request that that be removed. If you need to go as far as send a nastygram on letterhead, if the review is liable in any way and you can actually prove that there could be losses or have been losses, that is one route to go. Usually flagging it for review and going down the normal review process is the right route to go. If it was a client, and that happens, someone leaves and they're just pissed off for whatever reason, and they go online and they leave you a bad review. First thing you need to note when you're replying to a negative review is don't give any details of the actual situation. Because you could very, very quickly find yourself in a situation where you're releasing confidential information and you're creating an ethics violation by replying to a negative review. So don't give any details. The best answer, and really what you're doing when you're responding to a negative review, is answering for everyone else that sees it. Say something just along the lines of, we're really sorry to hear that you feel this way. We're going to reach out to you, or feel free to contact us, however you want to phrase it, to see if there's some way that we can help explore the situation more, or find a solution, or make things right. Just some sort of very simple, generic response that just says, "Hey, I hear you. I'm going to talk to you, and we're going to figure out how to make this okay." That's all you need to say, because then if somebody else reads it, at least they feel like you addressed it, responded to it, and took further action. People don't expect you to air the entire laundry of what's going on publicly. That's usually all you need. In fact, psychologically, one or two negative reviews and the mix of a lot of positive reviews actually make the positive reviews look more authentic. And so it's this weird psychological thing where if we only see all 5 stars, it looks almost fake. If we see a couple 3 stars and 4 stars and 5 stars, things look a little more accurate. So that's the one note on responding to negative reviews. Don't freak out. It's hard not to take it personally, but you got to just power on. It's going to happen. At some point in time, you're going to get a negative review, and just accept that not everybody's going to be happy. All right, so let's jump into websites. Oh, wait a minute. We are actually going to talk about the Apple Watch. And so in the website section, I didn't really know where to put the Apple Watch because it kind of is its own thing. So I figured the website section would be the right place to put it, because this kind of deals with online assets that you own and create yourself. You don't create Avo, you don't create Google Plus, but you do create your website, and you would create your Apple Watch app, for example. Wearable technology is a real thing that is going to become much more prolific in the next 18 months. We're going to see a sharp increase in the amount of wearable technology that people are interacting with online. So Fitbit would be an example of a wearable technology that helps you monitor your health, but isn't really something that accesses the internet for you. Your Apple Watch, different versions of Google Glasses, and social networks like Periscope that are opening up avenues for various different mobile applications to be able to access the internet for wearables is something we're going to start to see more of. You don't need to run out and make an Apple Watch app right now. I wrote a piece kind of outlining all of this on Clio, C-L-I-O, Clio's website. If you go to Clio's blog, from just about 3 weeks ago, you'll see a piece that I just wrote about breaking down kind of the ins and outs of the Apple Watch. But I just want to point this out. There's actually a law firm that has an Apple Watch app. I thought that was pretty cool and good for them. I don't know that it's really useful right now. that it's something you need to worry about. I just want to bring it up to say, please keep it on your radar. Just keep paying attention to whether or not it's going to become something you should be worrying about down the road. I think mobile is a good example of this. 4 years ago, we were talking about mobile websites and having a mobile presence, and we were saying to law firms, and this was based off all the data, mobile is important but not necessary 4 years ago. Mobile is necessary now. Apple Watch is important, not necessary. It will eventually become somewhere that you need to have a presence of some sort. So your website, what you're seeing here is all the things that impact your website. So Yelp and Better Business Bureau and Avvo and your mobile version and Google Plus, and these things all impact your website, can have part of your website's presence baked into them, which is important. That your website is kind of where you are going to want to be driving traffic, and so that's where you want to be pushing things. So yeah, Google Plus local is important, but you kind of want that person to either pick up the phone from the Google local page, or you want that person to go to your website, right? You know, and when talking about traffic, someone asked a question like Google pay-per-click. So for Google search ads, how much should a law firm be paying for ads? As one method for driving traffic to a website. And so all these things should be driving traffic to your website. You can buy traffic, right? So you can just go on to Google PPC and buy traffic. It is extremely expensive for law firms. The legal industry as a whole online, the access to PPC is very, very, very pricey because it's a it's a bidding process. There is a minimum threshold, and this is one thing people don't understand about pay-per-click traffic, is that really for most practice areas, you need to be spending at least $2,000 per month on pay-per-click ads minimum. So it's not like if you spend $1,000 a month, you get half as much as $2,000. If you spend $1,000 a month, you get really no results online. If you spend $2,000 a month, you start to see some results. For most practice areas, $2,000 a month is a minimum starting point if you're in a small town. If you're in a metropolitan like San Francisco, San Diego, Seattle, Chicago, Denver, any one of those cities at all, Cincinnati, Boston, that's going to jump up to about $3,500 per month. If you're in personal injury, criminal defense, or DUI, that's going to be around $5,000 per month in PPC spend. Not something that everybody can budget to afford, but it is one route to go. So website components, these are the things that go into your website. And so name/brand, like what is the brand of your law firm? The brand is important. It's not just like your brand isn't just your logo and colors. Your brand is the essence of what your law firm stands for. Who are you? Why would someone hire you? What kind of lawyers are you? So a good example and an easy way to look at branding is family law is a really great practice area to kind of define how branding works in legal. In family law, especially for divorce, there really are two main buckets of divorce lawyers. There is the pit bull, I'm going to get you everything you deserve, we're going to try to take this all the way if we can. Then there's the collaborative mediation approach of we think we can work this thing together and it doesn't have to be a battle. Those are two very, very different approaches to the same problem. Someone's getting a divorce. Now when someone gets to your website and they say, I need a divorce lawyer, and they land on your web page, and that web page should be communicating to them not only that you're a divorce lawyer, but what kind of divorce lawyer are you? That's where branding starts to come in, right? That's brand messaging. That is helping the person understand the way that it is to work with you. So are you collaborative or are you pit bull? Are they going to work with a attorney, or are they going to be working with paralegals and other office staff, and then sometimes connecting to the attorney? Are you big? Are you small? I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to all those things. If you're a really big firm, then you want to say stuff like, we have an immense amount of resources. If you're a really small firm, you want to say stuff like, we give you the personal touch. So you can spin either side, but those are the things that get baked into your branding. And branding is important because it helps the user know if you're the right person for them. And that's not a, and some people are like, but I don't want to turn people away. And I get that. But if somebody comes to you and they're going through a divorce, and we'll keep with this example, and they want to get their pound of flesh, and you're not that kind of lawyer, you don't want that client, because that client's going to be really unhappy with the way that you proceed with their situation. They're going to want someone with a ton of teeth that's going to want to go after it. And if you're like, no, I want to sit down and collaborate on this, then you need to make sure you're communicating that effectively online, and that's part of your brand. Where are you located? How do they get a hold of you? Phone number? We just wanted to give you a list here of some of the things. Proof they should call you. Why should they call you? What's proof that they should be calling you? Making things easy to navigate. Connecting with them. Do you understand their problem? Do they feel like you're connecting with them? So let's walk through some websites. This is an example of and I'm sorry, John Von Aken, that you got called out here, but this is an example of a law firm website that is just not doing what it should be doing. There's no place to call this person. Doesn't really clearly say what they do. The lead-in line is honesty still matters. Stay away from cliche lines. That doesn't actually convince anybody of anything. What can you do for me? It's not saying what you can do for me, because when people come to your website with a legal problem, they're in the middle of a situation that's probably got them in a little bit of duress. They're having difficulty. Nobody really wants to be going through a legal issue for the most part. And so make sure that they feel like you understand them, that you're connecting with them. There's no proof that you should call John here. Let's jump into a couple of examples of ones that work well. So this is one of our clients, and I'm going to use our clients because I understand their specific practices really well. This is one of our clients in Tacoma, Washington. They're a DUI firm. They got a really good, heavy brand built around Barbara. There are other lawyers at the law firm, but Barbara Bowden's done a really good job of building her brand. And there's a couple of components here that are really important. First off is in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the phone number. The phone number is easy to see. It's right up there in the upper right-hand corner. They're available 24/7, which for DUI is important. Don't make it difficult for the person to call you. If the person wants to call you, put your phone number right up there so they can see it. There is a request schedule an appointment button that opens up a box where people can fill out their information. That's just one way to display that sort of box. Underneath that, you'll see what we call badges. There's the AVO ratings. There's just various badges there that are proof to say, look, other people say that I am good at what I do. That's social proof, saying why you should call me. And then you'll start to see some information as you scroll down the site. So this is just an example and a nice picture of Barbara there on the front. Another client of ours, I just wanted to show you a different way to use the information box there. So before, where Barbara had request a consultation, here our client has, the actual box fields are there, name, address, phone number, and tell us a little bit about your situation. A cautionary note, where you have people fill out information on the form that says, tell us a little bit about your situation, just make sure that you limit the number of characters people can put in there, because otherwise people can go on and on and on, and you could run into conflict issues, and that can be a little bit of a pain. If you have a larger firm, try to, again, you practice a lot of different practice areas, or you do a lot of different areas within that practice area. This is just an easy way to display it. The point is make it easy on the user. And so that's the end result, is to make it easy on the user. And again, what's really, really trying to drive home here is that give people an easy access to contact you. And this is a little bit larger client in Knoxville. So everybody in Knoxville really knows who they are because they're one of the bigger law firms in that city. You want to make sure you have a disclaimer on your website. We recommend putting that disclaimer in the footer of your website. Disclaimers are very state by state, but they all pretty much cover the same stuff. Contacting us through this website does not constitute a client-attorney relationship. This website is for informational purposes only, and nothing on this website constitutes advice. That's pretty much the essence of every disclaimer. Make sure that you do have that appearing at the bottom of every page, just to protect yourself from any sort of ethics violations. Images, in some states, you are not allowed to use, well, Florida in particular, you're not allowed to use emotionally invoking images that are too emotional. That's a little vague. I find it tough to understand what that means. I thought these were really funny. I just typed in custody battle. And I'd like to point out the picture in the middle on the bottom with the kid holding the two parents like a scale. I just think that that picture is terrible. I was like, what? Who would ever put that on their website? That is like a terrible photo. Don't use cheesy stock photos. Get away from the gavels and the courtroom steps and try to get away from those when at all possible. Responsive design. This is the way to make sure that your website is mobile. Your website has to be mobile ready. You no longer can wait. The search engines are penalizing you now if you are not mobile ready. Responsive design is the best way to do mobile. In fact, it's really the only answer technically on why there are other ways to do mobile, but this is the right answer, is responsive design. It's what most every web agency is doing, and it is the right way to do it. It loads fast. It's easy to read on any size device. So no matter what size phone or tablet you have, responsive design is super, super, super easy. All right, so we do have a quick, we're at the 1 hour mark. We only got about 5-10 minutes left tops, but we do have a quick poll here from Lexis Advance, which is one of the products that we just need to know if you would like a follow-up from Lexis Advance. And so if you want to just click on that, and they will, just yes or no real quick and give them a quick answer. We can continue on to the end of the website side of the fence and get into wrapping up with social. So I'm going to take a drink of water while you all are clicking on these real quick, and I'm going to give you another couple seconds here to get in your answers. All right, last few seconds. I see a few more people clicking in. All right. And if you did want to take advantage of this and for whatever reason you're not able to click, I'm sure that if you shot them an email response, they'd be more than happy to walk you through that demo. All right. So blogging. Interestingly, somebody asked about blogging, and I just want to point out a couple things about blogging. Blogging really is no longer for SEO value. There used to be a ton of SEO value in blogging. Fewer posts. We used to recommend 1 post a week. Now I'm saying just do 1 a month if you're going to have a blog. The post should be about 1,000 words or longer. Blogs are still valuable. They still do drive results. They still do get people to take action. Users do read blogs. Add a little personality, Don't mention clients by name in your blogs. You can't even mention, in every state, you can't mention enough details about someone that the person would reasonably be able to figure out who it is. A good example of that would be like the mayor of San Francisco. I don't need to say the name of the mayor. I can just simply say the mayor of San Francisco, and that would be potentially an ethics violation if I'm talking about confidential information. So just don't mention clients by name. It's just a safe way to avoid any potential problems. It's not that you can never do it. It's just that you shouldn't do it. We say don't poke the bear. We like to stay as far away from ethics guide, gray areas as possible. Watch out for duplicate content. Years ago, not even years ago now, maybe about 1.5 years ago, I was doing some research and I was on a family law website in Nevada. I found this paragraph and an entire page that was duplicated identically on 12 other websites in 12 different states. Duplicate content will hurt you. Do not have duplicate content. The company that had built all these websites, I won't mention them by name, they rhyme with fine law, is the company that wrote all the content for the people. So watch out if you're hiring someone to produce copy for you, that copy is unique. Okay, so make sure that copy is unique. And just in all fairness, just to make sure that you guys are getting supported here on the call, if you are a FindLaw client, you have been for a long time, I'm not saying that all of FindLaw stuff is wrong or anything along those lines. I'm just saying that there have been some instances of duplicate content with the organization. So go back and just copy and paste your text into Google and see if it is appearing anywhere else. And then if it is, feel free to contact your rep. They're not the only company that's done stuff like that in the past, so it's not a bad idea to check your stuff in general. But this is an actual slide from an actual website online that I found in 12 other states, and so it is important to pay attention to that. We're not going to dive too deep into the website ethics just for time's sake here. It really kind of is very similar to your directory listing ethics as far as watch comparative speech, make sure you got your disclaimers, keeping records of things. But you'll get this slide deck. So remember, this isn't an ethics section. I just thought it'd be important. Mobile impact. Here is a kind of just a quick outline of what we're seeing for mobile statistics. Upwards of about 30% of law firm traffic is coming from mobile devices. That's about 1/3 of all of your traffic. So that's why mobile responsive matters among a lot of other reasons. I was in Napa, California, and I asked Siri to find me a DUI lawyer. Siri came back and said, I didn't find any DUI lawyers. So I was doing this CLE in Napa, talking to all these lawyers in the room, and Siri had no information about any lawyers. I probably could have thrown my phone out the window and hit a DUI lawyer on the head in Napa. I mean, that's how many DUI lawyers must be there. And the reason is because no one in Napa had a proper presence filled out, which is going to be your Bing and Yelp listings properly created to be able to show up on Siri. So do watch out for things like Siri. It is actually happening. Somebody asked, does duplicative content mean taking someone else's work or reposting your own work on multiple mediums? That would be, both of those are duplicate. Duplicate content means anytime content appears multiple places. A good example would be if you took your blog post and you copied and pasted that blog post onto a different URL, another blog, copied and pasted it onto LinkedIn, copied and pasted it onto some other forum, then those would all be considered duplicate content because that content exists everywhere, whether you copied and pasted it or not, or it was somebody else's. So social media. You know, when we talk about marketing tactics, social media gets a little complicated because it's not an insanely great place for generating business for law firms, but it's not terrible either. Social media is not a search-based platform. It's not places people go searching for answers. It's places people go to hang out. So what that means is that you need to have a presence there, but that you may not get a lot of direct business from social media platforms. And so we kind of actually, from a marketing perspective, don't spend a ton of time on social. It's not to say that you can't, it's just that the amount of time you spend on it doesn't always equal the return that you get. Now, Facebook ads can be really useful. It would take a whole entire hour to go through how to run Facebook ads. Our book does walk through it. So the book will tell you how to set up a Facebook ad. They're a little bit complicated, and I usually recommend hiring an agency for that and not doing it yourself. But you can do it yourself, and the book will show you how. Twitter, I mean, Twitter is useful for people who use Twitter. I love Twitter. Twitter's great. I don't think that a lot of law firms get a lot of clients from Twitter, but tweets are being indexed again by Google. So there is that. I mean, that's some value. So posting links to your blogs and stuff on Twitter is important. Facebook, you need to have a Facebook law firm page. This is separate from your business, your personal page. This is your business page. The reason you need to have it is it ranks well in Google. You don't need to get a ton of likes. You don't really need to worry about that much. Just post your content on there as you're creating content. You can post a link to that content on your Facebook page. You just want to have at least the page there in case somebody does stumble upon it. There's a ton of ethics issues with social media that you got to watch out for. Again, for time's sake, we're not going to jump into all of those. The two social networks that I do want to call out as a good moment to watch are Pinterest and Instagram. Pinterest and Instagram are not yet fully relevant for law firm marketing, but they are something we are testing a lot on right now to see if we can get some results. We've been driving some good traffic and running some good campaigns on Pinterest and Instagram, but they're not something I'd recommend you spend a lot of time doing. So when it comes to time on social, you know, LinkedIn's a good environment, but again, man, these social media environments for law firms, unless you're business to business, so unless you're a you know, corporate law firm, social like LinkedIn, for example, yeah, your clients are there, but I think the better use of your time and resources is going to be spent on your website, your directory listings, your online presence as a whole, getting reviews, all those other things that we talked about are going to be some of your best sides of it. So, sorry, last slide here says the ethics, and I know that's not fully what we're doing here. We did jump into that a little bit. But with that, we are open to Q&A. So for those of you that didn't get a chance to write it down, the URL to get a complimentary copy of our best-selling legal marketing book is www.gnGF.com/Lexis. gnGF.com/Lexis. So let's go through some of these questions here. Anthony asks, should I advertise on places like Craigslist and Angie's Lists for directories? Angie's List, maybe. The reason that I even give it a maybe is that it just has a large user base. Now, Craigslist, of course, has a larger user base, but I don't think anybody really is going to Craigslist looking for solutions to legal problems. And the people who are going to Craigslist looking for solutions to legal problems may not be the best kind of client to attract. I'm sure that you've all gotten situations where people think they have a legal problem, but they don't really have a legal problem. And so that could be a big time suck and take up a lot of your resources. Angie's List would be interesting. I've never heard of a lawyer using Angie's List successfully. Maybe they're just not talking about it, but I talk to thousands of lawyers every year. I'd be surprised that I hadn't heard anything to this point. So I'm still going to give Angie's List a maybe, but I wouldn't put too much on there. Someone asked if they have to cite the sources of pictures used. Absolutely. You do have to watch out for copyright law. If you're using pictures on your website or pictures on your advertising, you need to make sure you've got proper attribution. Is that picture allowed for commercial use? You know, there are some really good resources out there that people are taking free photos that you are able to use without attribution, but do make sure that you know what kind of attribution is required. Another good question here on what you would recommend using for proof, like social proof that I talked about, testimonials, results. That is state by state. So when it comes to what you can use as social proof, it really depends on what state you're in. Some states allow for testimonials, some states don't. Some states allow you to publish results, some states don't. Most states where you're allowed to publish results, you have to include a disclaimer that says that results aren't guaranteed or not typical. Then that is important. Someone asked, my website is not responsive, but it is mobile. Do I need to update it? Yes, you do need to update it. If your website is a mobile design or an M-dot site, as we used to call it, M-dot sites, mobile design sites, do not load fast enough to meet the minimum requirement from the search engines. Google said they want to see mobile sites loading in less than 1 second. Just to get minorly technical, a cell phone takes 0.6 seconds to call a server. A mobile design site is a redirect, which takes another 0.6 seconds to call that other server. So when that happens, that's already 1.2 seconds before your site's even started to load, which is why that won't work. I'm seeing some questions about different social networks like Meerkat and Periscope. To be honest, yes, those are places you can experiment with some marketing. I like to say take your marketing resources, maybe spend 5% of your time experimenting. Don't spend much, 5% of your time kind of working around some Periscope and some of these other newer networks. You see networks like Ello that came and left, right? So they're up and they're out. So that's why you got to watch out for these new networks. Sometimes they don't get any staying power, and they don't really get any traction, right, in the marketplace. Somebody said, do I recommend using outside agencies for services like other than Facebook? For example, Google AdWords, Twitter, et cetera. That's kind of tough, right? I own an agency that does all these things, so of course my knee-jerk answer is, yes, you should absolutely hire an agency to do all these things. You don't have to hire an agency to do all these things. Our book actually is sufficient enough to walk anyone in your office through step-by-step exactly what to do on all of these things. So yeah, it's a balance for you, right? You have to determine as a firm how many resources do you have, and are those resources being properly used to drive your business the direction that you want it to go. And so it really just kind of depends on what your own firm's makeup is as to whether or not you should or shouldn't be working with an outside agency. My only moment of caution to tell everybody is, look, if you do work with an agency, just make sure that they understand the legal profession. Don't go hire an agency to build your website or to do your marketing or to run your social media that doesn't understand the nuances of legal, especially the ethical boundaries, because you can find yourself in trouble. You are responsible for the content they produce and the actions that they take online if that is an agency you've hired. So just make sure they understand legal. Are there ways to focus on a specific client profile, such as a commercial real estate executive? On Facebook, there are ways to specifically target people based off of their Facebook and LinkedIn ad platforms allow you to target off of specific demographics like that. Also, you can create content for your website that talks about specific issues those people are interested in. That's another way to target someone, is to write content that is the kind of content they are looking for, and that's a good way to get your information out there online to get in front of the right people. Is using an app that copies content from one post from Facebook to all social mediums at once going to hurt search ranking? It is not. Social and search ranking are two separate things. So you can use things like Hootsuite, which will allow you to publish to all of your social networks at once, which can be kind of useful. Use those things strategically. Don't dump all your content in there all the time. You know, and if you can, publishing to each individual social network separately would be most valuable, but that's a time resource issue there, right? You know, somebody asked, are there any studies on the efficiencies of blogs versus vlogs, like a video blog? So, you know, has anybody, you know, is there information out there saying which one performs better? The answer is both. You need to have you need to have video, and you need to have a blog. But should you only have a vlog versus a blog? No, you shouldn't have one or the other. Some people prefer the written, some people prefer the video. Videos can be used on other networks like YouTube. They can be used on your website. They can be used on other social channels, and that's okay. You do still want to do some writing, so there isn't a one or the other. I thought an interesting question is, doesn't posting on multiple social channels the same information duplicate content? The answer is yes, it is, but it doesn't impact your search rankings because that's not search related. So social and search are two separate things. If you copy and paste a blog post from your website and then put it on another blog medium, so where this can get a little confusing is LinkedIn has a publishing platform, their Pulse network. And if you publish your blog on LinkedIn and you publish your blog on your website, that is now duplicate content. LinkedIn also has a social media side of the fence. So they have updates, status updates, and connects, and groups, and places you can go hang out. Now, on Facebook, for example, Facebook is not even indexed by Google. So Google is unaware of what gets posted on Facebook and what doesn't, which is good. Lorraine writes, California is proposing blogs as commercial and potentially require blogs to be on a separate site. My thoughts? No, just because even if it does contain commercial speech, that doesn't require it to be on a separate website. What's going to be required is that there are the proper disclaimers in place if California does go through and decide that blogs are commercial. They're probably not going to end up falling on that side of the fence quite that solidly. The reason being is that blogs really should be informational based anyway. So you should be delivering content, informational content that's not necessarily commercial, right? So in order for something to be considered commercial, has to contain commercial speech. So there has to be some sort of really strong call to action or you know, directive to hire you for your own pecuniary gain. And that just doesn't exist inherently in a blog. Now the issue is what information is surrounding the blog. So if your blog's on your website and your website has information on the banner and information on the right-hand side that says contact us, here's a contact form, give us a call, that's all commercial speech, then you just need to make sure you have your disclaimer, right? So it's okay to have commercial speech on your website, and your blog can still live and should live on your website. You shouldn't have your blog separated off your website. Kevin O'Keefe and I love Kevin O'Keefe. Him and I have known each other for years, and you were just having coffee in Seattle not too long ago and just arguing about this very point, because we argue about this all the time. My stance is your blog should be on your website. Kevin's stance is that your blog should be standalone. I would say we're both right, and we're both right for different reasons. So, you're going to have to figure out which side of the fence you want to fall on. But in my opinion, your blog belongs on your law firm website, and that's a good thing. Thank you, Bob. Bob said he's got to go, but it was a very good presentation. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the heads up there. Let's see here. Somebody asked the firm that they work for, pictures that they can use on the site. I would, in Google, just go on Google 14 amazingly free stock photo websites. 14 amazingly free stock photo websites. It will pull up an article from entrepreneur.com that lists out 14 websites that have access to images that were taken by photographers that are not really stock photography, that are usable online for commercial purposes. Make sure you still read the exact rules for each individual photo so you understand what the commercial implications are. Do you have to have attribution, so on and so forth? Can you alter the photo or not? Those are the questions you want to be asking yourself. And that is a great resource for finding places where you can use images. That's just Google 14 amazingly free stock photo websites. And to be honest, they're not like your traditional stock photos at all. Not even close. What are your favorite recommended applications or programs to help with efficiency? Zapier, Hootsuite, those are very, very different programs, Zapier and Hootsuite. I wish we had more time to get into if, then, that, and Zapier and all the other ways you can make your life more efficient. That's more of an operational side, a little bit less on your marketing side. Is video content better for Google ranking than blog content? Again, video is different. Not better than or worse, but it is essential. You do want to have video presence. Videos should be content-based. It really shouldn't be advertising-based. And the reason is that people are watching videos. YouTube's the second largest search engine. And, YouTube, I wish we had, really it takes about 3 or 4 hours to dive into every network that you should have stuff going on. Today was trying to give us some nice tactics that we can go use immediately. But video is one of those areas where you should have video, and that video, it should just be content. Think 60-second Q&A style. That's usually the best route to go. Really short videos talking about something that bring up questions that people should be asking that they don't ask a lot. Publish that on YouTube. Those will show up in the search rankings. Those will be good. It is good for traffic. So yeah, video is important as well. Do not pay for Yext. Somebody asked if they can pay for Yext. That is not a solution to get your directory listings. It should be done a little bit more manually. Yext will create duplicate listings. They really, really do struggle with that. Somebody asked if I mentioned FindLaw's websites with some of the duplicate content issues, but what do I think about their directory listing? The basic answer is if you're getting business from your FindLaw directory, you should be tracking this, right? So you should be tracking your intake process to understand. We work with all our clients to help kind of build out their intake process, and you should do the same, where you should have an intake process that lets you know not only where the lead came from online or the phone call came from, but did that person become a client, and what was the value of that client, the lifetime value of that client. And start to be able to say, I'm spending $1,500 a month on FindLaw directories, but I'm getting $4,000 a month in return. Then I say, great, keep it going. I mean, why turn that off? If you say I'm spending $1,500 a month on a FindLaw directory and I'm getting $1,500 worth of work, and that's gross, I'd say you're probably losing money. And so the same thing goes for pay-per-click. The same thing goes for any directory listing. If you're paying to receive traffic and leads and it's costing you more than you're making, then stop doing it. It becomes just a cost and unnecessary. How many pages do you think a website should have? There is no magic number to how many pages should be on a website. Honestly, the website should have as many pages as are necessary to get that information out. What does that mean? That means quite simply that if you do car accidents, you don't need 15 pages about car accidents. You just need 1 or 2 pages about car accidents. But a car accident, a bicycle accident, truck accident, boating accident, those are all different kinds of accidents. So those should each have their own page. But don't just create content for the sake of creating content. We do create a lot of localized content. It's a lot of content that's like, city-specific practice area content. That can be really useful. Our office is headquartered in Cincinnati. Outside of Cincinnati, we might write a page about Dayton, or a page about Mason, Ohio, or a page about, Lebanon, Ohio. So we write localized pages around the city, and that is okay to create extra pages. But that is some stuff that you want to watch out for, just creating content for the sake of creating content. What do you think? Someone asked, what do I think about paying for Google ad positioning? That is what pay-per-click does, is you bid for your ad placement where the ad goes. And yes, that is a very complex, very, very important mechanism for how well your ad is doing. Is there a standard for legal website disclaimer you can use without reinventing the language? Absolutely. Go to your bar association's website, and almost every bar association has an example disclaimer or outline of what they want to see in a disclaimer for your website. There is not a standard for everywhere, every jurisdiction. This does vary state by state. So you do want to make sure that you have all your T's crossed and I's dotted for your specific state's guidelines. So go to your state bar association. They should have that information that you would be able to get access to. Do PDFs on websites impair assessment of mobile friendliness? Yes, PDFs on websites are terrible. They used to be okay. What we're doing now is adding a link to download the PDF onto the user's device, because a PDF on a website is not really readable. It's a challenge for the search engines to read it, but it also is almost impossible to read on a mobile device unless the person downloads it, and then they're able to read it on their mobile device a lot easier. So PDFs are a challenge. They are a challenge, and sometimes. Isn't Google Plus going out the window? Somebody asked. Absolutely not. What you're probably referring to is Google Plus, the social network side of the fence. Google Plus business pages are not going anywhere. That's their local directory listing. But Google Plus, the social network, is evolving and changing and growing, and it actually was set up to be a federal identification, online identification site. So it really was never intended for social media use and has not been widely adopted socially. But no, Google Plus in that regard is not going anywhere. If ranking doesn't matter anymore, doesn't that mean that I don't need to work on an SEO strategy? Absolutely not. SEO is still important. Ranking is not a measurable thing that you want to be obsessed with anymore. That doesn't mean that you don't want traffic to your website. One of the ways that you get traffic to your website is by optimizing what you have. SEO stands for search engine optimization. What we're actually kind of starting to refer to it as SEM, which is search engine marketing, which would include SEO in my opinion. SEO is just the act of doing things to make sure that your content, your website gets in front of someone when they have a problem. If I have a legal problem, I go to Google and I type in, do I need to take money from the insurance company or should I hire a lawyer? You want to have your website show up in front of that person. The reason I say rankings don't matter is that you can't measure ranking like you used to. So ranking still exists, but the problem is it's different for every user. So it's not like it used to be where I could say definitively you're ranking in this position. You're number 2 for your city, for your keywords, for everybody. Now I can only say with some amount of certainty you're ranking well. I can't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can tell you you're probably on page 1 for most everybody. And so, yeah, that's why I say rankings don't matter, but SEO is more important than possible. How can I build a word-of-mouth practice? Great question. Go out there and get out in the world. Go do speaking engagements, set up seminars, go to networking events, write as much as you can, write articles for other publications, and just really try to get plugged in. Word of mouth still matters, but remember, even your word of mouth still is going to need to be backed up by a solid online presence, because what happens when somebody gets referred to you? They go online to check you out. So with that, we are going to end today's session. Thank you so much for all your questions. I really appreciate you taking the time. For those of you that stuck around, hope you guys got some good value out of this. I know I sure enjoyed it, and I look forward to hopefully being back again sometime down the road.
Thank you, Jabez. That does conclude today's webinar, Advanced Marketing Tactics for Law Firms. On behalf of LexisNexis, I'd like to thank you for attending and invite you to fill out the survey immediately following this webcast. Please join us again soon for another webinar and enjoy the rest of your day.